The following is a fictitious retelling of the 2001 NASCAR season and beyond. This program is intended to be respectful and is not an attempt to slander or defame any of the people included. The storylines within do not represent the views or opinions of the brands and personalities involved.
Night casts its darkness over a quiet North Carolina town. Midnight has just passed, and the last of business lighting has been shuttered till morning. Quietly, a car rolls up to the town's only stoplight, sitting there, idling. The driver is Nick Bergwald, coming home from a long weekend at Talladega. He's ready to get home and crash. Suddenly, though, another car pulls alongside of him. It startles him a little, as he looks over to see his teammate, Taylor Fry. He turned his lights off to play a practical joke on Nick, and now, they both roll the windows down and look at one another. Taylor points to the stoplight, and then gives him a nod of understanding. Nick, awakened from his sleepy trance, sits up in his seat, and tightens his grip on the wheel. Soon they approach a one-lane bridge. As certain death approaches a reality at over 100 miles an hour, Nick finally forbids. Taylor sails across the bridge and continues on his way home. Nick, in a mix of emotions, gets the car rolling again and crosses the bridge. Taylor's got bragging rights over him for this week, he thought. A Chevrolet rolls up to the NASCAR headquarters. Out steps Dale Earnhardt. He has been summoned personally by the behest of Bill France Jr. He walks in to see the secretary, who then informs him where to go. He steps down the hallway and into the elevator, taking it straight up to the top level. Dale gets out and walks to the largest office on the floor. Big Bill France sits in there alone, at the front of his desk, looking at paperwork. He looks up to acknowledge Earnhardt's presence, and then proceeds to pull out a TV remote. Dale looks to the left side of the room and sees a large TV, already with the VCR of the previous weekend's Busch race at Talladega inside. Bill proceeds to ask Dale what this is, to which Dale laughs a little bit and responds with the obvious answer. Bill, however, is not amused. He hits play, and that's a replay of the crash with Busch driver Cody Wortley.
Tremendous crash here down the backstretch at Talladega, coming to rest in the old chicane. That 3 car is junk, and we haven't seen a car take off like that in a long time.
After the crash is over, Dale asks what exactly it is they're looking at. Before Bill can answer, the replay in the broadcast does the trick.
Give me, if we can get a replay of this, I kind of noticed something interesting there. Now look, when he flies through the air here, if we can get the Fox slowdown, when it turns sideways here, look at that. There's no roof flaps popping up. None of the roof flaps do not deploy on that race car. Look at how it just floats in the air like a butterfly.
I wonder if they were stuck or something. I don't.
I don't, man. I doubt they would tamper with them.
Very lucky that that car spun the way it did. It did not go back up into the pack and take out a lot of other contenders, but...
The TV turns off, and now the room is quiet. Before Dale can speak, France begins a lecturing about messing with safety devices and the morality of finding speed the right way. Dale is adamant with his friend that he has no clue how such a situation occurred. And France finally stops and states to Dale that he can either do two things: a points penalty or a fine. Dale expresses to Bill again he has no clue about this, and that he'll make it right. Bill just doesn't want to hear it, and again he gives him the ultimatum: points or money. A Ram pickup truck pulls up to a small house. Out steps Austin Delgado, nervously walking up to the front doorstep. He'd asked someone after the race about this address, and hopes it's the right one. 2 knocks leads to an open door, and the presence of Cody Wortley, greeting his fellow competitor. Austin is invited in, and the two have a conversation.
Hey, Cody. I just wanted to come apologize for what happened at Talladega. Kind of turned you.
It's all good. It's all good. Happens.
Sweet. I brought you cookies.
It's Talladega. Cookies!
Yeah, man.
Yeah, dude, cookies.
Sweet.
Yeah, man.
Alright, so we're cool? We're all
Yeah,
good?
we're fine. We're good. We're all good.
Alright. Just, I'm gonna leave these here.
Has the
or you
sun
take-
always been this bright?
It's cloudy,
Alright.
actually. It's cloudy, Cody.
Oh, that's... Whew.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Alright.
okay. Well, I got a meeting, I think.
Yeah, I was just stopping by, I'll
Nah, I appreciate
take
it.
these and just want to make sure we're cool, man.
Nah, that sounds good.
Alright, see ya.
A gathering of nearly every employee at DEI sit in front of Dale Earnhardt and Ty Norris. They are next to a whiteboard. They are awaiting the start of an emergency meeting. And eventually chatter comes to a quiet as Earnhardt begins. He states how NASCAR has applied their thumb on not only him, but the entire team. To avoid a points penalty to the Busch team, Dale took a private fine of $30,000 due to the roof flap violation. And to avoid more controversy, he and Ty Norris have decided to create some guidelines to avoid more penalties. The first, and most obvious, is to cease tampering with anything perceived as a safety device. Next is to not make any erratic moves on track that could warrant a serious repercussion. Before Ty Norris could go into more detail about the statements and the others after, Kevin Harvick stands up, along with his 3 teammates at DEI. He makes a point about how Dale made a career off of these things, and that he doesn't see how this will help their perception with NASCAR as a team. Before Ty can respond, Dale pipes in with a stern and direct answer to Harvick, telling him they'll all have to change whether they like it or not. Kevin tries to reiterate his point, but Dale has had enough, cutting him off and telling Ty to finish the meeting. At the end, the team agrees with such guidelines, to which Dale pulls just the drivers aside to talk to the 4 of them. They all seem questionable. Dale again expresses this is how it has to be, but Kevin brings up the points before. He doesn't like how his aggression will have to be restrained, to which Dale, fed up with this argument about aggression, reminds Harvick of how he got that ride. Harvick, taken aback from that statement, is silent. Michael is the next to break the uncomfortableness, and begins asking Dale if Richard ever gave him orders like this. To which Earnhardt, still aggravated, responds with a point about how Richard never had to worry about Dale wrecking kids on pit lane in the Busch Series. Michael now stands quiet. A junior now chimes in. He states that he has had an awful season, with crashes, mechanical failures, and overall horrendous luck. He questions why he has to be punished. To which Dale responds to the question, "Do you want to fly through the air at Talladega like him?" He points to Cody, who's been quiet through all this. All the attention is on him now. Earnhardt asks him if he has any gripes with the meeting, to which Cody pauses and then after a few seconds says, "Nope." The California Speedway opens for the first practice sessions of the weekend. Heading on the track is the 21 car Mike Skinner. Mike has been driving this car for a few weeks now, and has put up modest runs. He nearly beat Jeff Burton at Texas, and now puts up the fastest time in practice. In the garage, sitting alongside one another, is the Penske 12 and 22. Taylor Fry, the 12 driver, slips his shoes on, and is ready to attack the green track. Soon, Nick Bergwall walks over, and he greets Taylor. The two fist bump before having a casual conversation about the track, cars, life, and everything else. The two have known each other for a few years now, joining Roger Penske's driver development team at the same time during 1999. They naturally hit it off with one another, and have been the best teammates to one another you could have. Eventually, their conversation is interrupted by crewmen instructing them to get in the cars and actually practice them. After the Busch practice wraps up, Greg Biffle-Roush would go out and win the pole that evening, whilst Jeff Green would start second. Bergwald would qualify a miserable 23rd, whilst Fry 8th. The two were known to be polar opposites in qualifying. Nick usually awful, but with great pace in the race, and Taylor the exact opposite. Extremely fast when needing to be, but a little reined back when the race actually starts. An orange and white 20 car streaks past the line. P1 on the time charts. He tops Bill Elliott, who put up his best Q run since the 500. And third is the points leader, the man that has begun to emerge as a championship hopeful. Originally it was Sterling Marlin. Over the last month and a half, Jeff Gordon has risen to the top of the standings, being only 5 points above the 29 of Kenny Wallace. He sits only 20 points ahead of Rusty Wallace in third, but Kenny has an abysmal qualifying run, slotting 27th. Rusty meanwhile nabs 9th, and between them on grid is 4th in standings and rookie sensation Casey Atwood, starting 23rd. He sits tied for the second most top 10s this season at 6, and many have begun speculating if this rookie sensation will either win his first race first, or fall off like his rookie companion Dylan Jacobs. The aforementioned Sterling Marlin sits 5th in standings, and is the last one within 100 points of Jeff Gordon. It has been feast or famine so far for Marlin this year, having only 5 top 10s, but 2 wins as well. And lastly, sitting 6th, 113 back, is the quiet Johnny Benson, waiting for career win number 1. For the Busch Series race there, the margin for first and second is tight. Keller holds a slim 7-point lead over Austin Delgado, with Jeff Green 52 back in third. 4th is Jimmy Johnson, and 5th is Kenny Wallace, who has been doing double duty so far this season. Missing from the top 5 in points are favorites Kevin Harvick, Cody Wortley, Nick Bergwald, and Taylor Fry, all having rough starts. Fry is the worst in 19th, but still has 2 top 5s. One was a 4th at Las Vegas, whilst the other was a runner-up to Jimmy Johnson at Bristol. Originally, the race was dominated by Adam Petty that day, but Fry had gotten the lead through use of pit strategy. However, lap traffic late caused chaos on Fry, and Johnson weaved through, taking the victory. Taylor has not let that mistake go, having it chew at him over the last few weeks. Roger Penske has called him on a couple occasions, providing a calm voice, guiding him toward trying to get his first win of 01 and taking his mind off of the loss. Taylor rolling off 8th in today's Busch race will see no stop, as through the 300-mile event, no cautions occur. Drivers like Kenny Wallace, Jimmy Johnson, and Jeff Purvis see engine failures through this, and the Penske boys finished 9th and 11th. Jason Keller grabs 2nd, as his competitor Austin Delgado gets 12th. Kevin Harvick gets a nice 4th place finish, and Biffle from pole finishes 3rd. The man who dominates the race and wins is the 21 of Mike Skinner, an incredibly relieving win for him, as your inaugural truck champion hasn't seen victory lane very often over the last few years. It's relieving to him, as he celebrates with his RCR crew. His outlook now is that hopefully it will build the momentum for tomorrow's 500-mile race. Clouds seclude the California sun, as the crews roll the 40 Cup cars to the grid. 14th and 16th place Dylan Jacobs and Jason Leffler chat as fellow rookies. Up in front though, in 6th and 7th, Dale Earnhardt and Kevin Harvick sit. Kevin walks over to Earnhardt, and asks him again about what he said on Tuesday. Dale groans and repeats what he had said to Harvick. Harvick again voices displeasure before Dale tells him that he's had enough, and he walks away. The race sorts out, and about 10 laps in, Harvick sits in front of Dale. Dale gets a run and sails low on his one car, but Kevin holds his line. Dale, going head over heels into one, misestimates one of the low line seams, and it shoots his car up high. Harvick has to lift to let Dale get in front of him so they don't crash, and now Kevin is furious. He's thinking about all the stuff he talked about with cool heads prevailing, and taking no chances. And then his team owner does that to him.
Kevin! Think about who you're gonna wreck here, man.
The race runs clean and green now, approaching 200 miles complete. Rookie Dylan Jacobs rides middle lane in 11th, weaving through some struggling lap cars. Next one he comes up on is Dave Blaney in his 93 Dodge. Dave rides middle as well, visibly struggling. Jacobs gets right up behind Dave, looking for an opportunity. He has raced Dave on and off through his career, from the heights of the Cup Series to the doldrums of the Midwest short track scene. Dylan finally decides to try and make a low move on the lap car, easily getting side by side by mid-corner. As they progress, however, he hits a seam in the asphalt, and then the 93 car sits smashed against the outside wall, fluids pouring from the nose of the car. Jacobs, with smoke spewing from his Ford, makes it back to the pit lane, and they take Dave to the infield, cleaning up the first caution of the day. The broadcast tabs Dave for an interview, to which he gives a signature soundbite.
Well, Dave, not the day you want to have here in California. Out of the race here on lap 87 after a battle with Dylan Jacobs went south.
Well, we were already a lap down at this point, and I was just trying to do anything I could to maybe even get a caution, and we would line up back on that inside line there. But there really wasn't a whole lot to look forward to for the rest of the race. But, I mean, to make matters worse, that damn Ray Jacobs, he just sailed it in there way too deep, cleaned me right out. Now I'm sitting here with a wrecked car, and all these guys have to go to work and try to fix this thing for next week.
Whilst most get a good chuckle, a few in the garage on the broadcast begin scrambling. Who the hell is Ray Jacobs? Pit stops commence with the race nearing its finish. One caution has kept everybody on their toes all day, but now it's coming down to strategy. Jeff Gordon has dominated most of the race, but has been filed to second over the last run by a flashy silver bullet. Mullen has come in first, however, and has taken 4 tires and fuel. Gordon, now coming in with 10 to go, takes only 2 tires, and right behind him is Tony Stewart, doing the same as Gordon. Jeff pulls out and holds about a second lead over Tony off the pit lane, and the two are nearly 5 seconds ahead of Sterling now. Tony throughout the entire day has not shown comparable speed during the day, and Jeff still holds the lead with about 6 to go. Suddenly, Tony starts closing, little by little. 4 to go. And Tony's only 4 car lengths back. Jeff comes over the radio, and he states that the handling is gone. Stewart keeps pushing. They come to 2 to go, and Tony's right there applying pressure. Is Tony really about to upset this race? It's going to have to be a last lap pass if so.
We got a battle on our hands, folks. Jeff Gordon getting hunted here by Tony Stewart. The dominant car of the day could be slipping here late. Here comes Stewart to the bottom.
That 20 car is on the move. He's chased him down from well far back just to be right to his bumper.
Gordon hanging tough up high. Tony Stewart drag race down the backstretch.
Tony's gonna have him here off in the Fury. Watch this.
Cleared him already. He just needs to keep it nice and tidy on the bottom. 24 can't get back to him. There's no way.
Ain't no way.
And off of turn 4, Gordon, one last run, not going to happen. Tony Stewart's going to take the checkered flag here from California.
What a race.
The 20 is in victory lane for the first time in 2001. The Joe Gibbs team couldn't be any happier. Jeff Gordon pulls his 24 into pit lane and gets out, shaking his head. How the hell did we let that one get away, he thought. Darkness sets across Fontana. In the parking lot sits a car. A figure walks towards it, with the light revealing Johnny Benson carrying a few bags. He stops, opens the door, and throws his belongings in the back seat. He then maneuvers to the front door and opens it, ready for his drive to the hotel. All of a sudden, a voice calls his name. He stops to look for the source, responding to it. Footsteps echo, and it's Nelson Bowers, the part owner of MB2 Motorsports, the team that Johnny drives for. He steps towards Johnny, asking about his day. Benson, always lighthearted, expresses optimism of his 9th place finish. And Nelson chuckles a bit at the brightness of Benson. And now he steps 10 feet within Johnny. He asks him what he expects from his team, to which Benson, confused, looks at Nelson. His tone is much more stark now. And again he asks what his expectations are. Johnny responds assuredly with winning. Bowers now steps even closer. He then asks, what aren't we doing? Benson replies again with winning. Nelson, with a now more aggravated tone, tells Johnny that when he brought Bonner and Benson on board from the disaster that was the 10 team last year, he thought success was imminent. Instead, they're winless through 3 months, and getting questions about why Valvoline abandoned a winning team to go to one that hasn't seen victory lane yet. Johnny is stunned by this aggression from his team owner. He assures him that success is coming, saying that he and BJ are working on it. Nelson interrupts again, telling him that he isn't paying for them to be friends, to just work together in this facade. Benson stands in silence, and Nelson walks away. He reiterates his points as he walks back into the infield, leaving Benson alone with his doubt. Busch cars begin darting around the 3/4 mile short track in Virginia's capital as Dylan Jacobs shows up to the track. He walks through the infield to where his 6 car is parked, but is stopped by a NASCAR official. He tells Dylan that his presence is wanted inside the NASCAR hauler. Big Bill France himself wants him. His heart sinks. He knows what it's about. He had tried calling Dave Blaney during the week, but had gotten the wrong number, instead calling his brother Dale Blaney. Jacobs walks nervously toward the red hauler as a NASCAR official slides the door open for him to enter. He steps up the steel fold-out steps and into the common area of the hauler space. Dylan stands staring at the wall, not moving, frozen in nervousness. He had heard the horror stories, the trauma, the crackdown from Mike Helton, and suddenly his nerves are grabbed. Quite literally, by the hands of Mike Helton, who walked in behind him. He squeezes Jacob's shoulder as he greets him. Before a dreaded small talk conversation begins, Bill France Jr. calls for Dylan to come into his office. He steps through the doors and is stunned by the use of space that is on display around Big Bill. A slightly smaller but completely normal office space on transport, right inside every NASCAR track. France can see that Jacobs is taking in the spatial usage of the hauler, and tells him that he insisted on him having it this way, to be able to work anywhere on the circuit. His tone changes, and snaps Dylan out of his wonder. He picks up a TV remote and turns on a television set on the side wall of the room. The VCR begins spinning until a tape starts playing. It's from the broadcast of last week's race at Fontana. Jacobs asks what this is before France tells him just to wait. All of a sudden, Dave Blaney appears and gives the classic interview.
Down at this point, and I was just trying to do anything I could to maybe even get a caution, and we line up back on that inside line there. But there really wasn't a whole lot to look forward to for the rest of the race. But I mean, to make matters worse, that damn Ray Jacobs.
France now pauses the TV. "Who the hell is Ray Jacobs?" he says, staring intently at the young driver. Dylan is in silence, a state of shock and confusion. He stammers, and then explains that it's from his time running the short tracks of the Midwest. During one of his first races, a commentator misread his full name on the note card, calling him Ray Jacobs. Of course, that would be the night of his first win, so when the young driver got out, the whole crowd of people were calling him Ray. Instead of correcting them, he went with it, and the name stuck. He theorizes that some people still from those tracks don't even know his real name is Dylan, to which they more than likely don't even know what happened to him. France, at the news of this, cracks a smile, and asks him why he changed it, and questioned if he didn't like the name. Jacobs explains the only reason why he stopped going by it was due to his Roush contract. Jack believed Ray wasn't marketable and unprofessional. It was written in that he would go by Dylan. Bill sits up now, and he tells him that he needs to go by Ray again. Dylan responds that it's not his choice, to which France says he will handle Jack. Big Bill now leans across the table, and he stares at Jacobs directly. He tells him that this is huge for him, to build an identity, a brand, to lift himself out of being a faceless rookie and into the stratosphere of people like the Intimidator, the Rooster, the Iceman. He puts his hand now on Jacobs' shoulder and tells him from this point on, the driver Dylan Jacobs is dead. And that damn Ray Jacobs, he has been reborn. The 22 Penske car pulls in and hops out. Nick Bergwald is frustrated, and he throws his helmet into the cockpit of the car. P27 in practice. That is absolutely unacceptable for the 1999 truck champion, and the struggle he has experienced in his sophomore season has been insufferable to him. His teammate Taylor Fry walks over, sitting in a not much improved position of 19th. Fry begins expressing to Nick the horrendous quality of cars and setups for this season, breaking into a rant about how awful the program is. Nick, sitting stewing, listening to the frustration, sees over Taylor's shoulder one of Penske's higher-ups walking towards them. He interrupts Taylor to make a joke and change the topic, which gets the two laughing. As the Penske executive walks up to ask about the cars, Nick starts off breaking down some of the handling and overall speed problems, whilst Taylor agrees, emphasizing Nick's points as well. The executive nods and walks away. The two drivers have a nice chat and Taylor walks back to his car. Crunch time begins to set in as Kevin Harvick has dominated the day. He sits in front of the 21 of Mike Skinner, putting together yet another impressive run. Chip back outside the top 10 is the 22 Nick Bergwald, trying to get past Chad Little for 10th. They're coming up on some lap traffic, this time being the 12 of Taylor Fry. Fry had been caught a lap down through strategy, and now is riding, letting lead cars by. Taylor sees Nick and Chad battling, and he pulls high. Nick gets a nose just under the 74 a little, and now Taylor puts the brakes on. Nick slides through as Chad is sent back, Fry helping his Penske brother. Chad Little, however, is furious and takes out his aggression as quick as he can. Fry spins it back around and gets down pit lane to assess the damage. And by the finish, he fights back to 19th. Bergwald holds 10th and Harvick prevails over Mike Skinner. Johnny Benson stands on pit road next to his 10 car, ready to roll off third. He hasn't been able to shake what Nelson had said to him last week. Before that, Johnny had maybe spoke to Nelson a couple of times. And after the last conversation, he realizes that all the times he's talked to him has been about expectation. He feels a tap on his shoulder and turns to see crew chief BJ Bonner. Johnny greets him, with Bonner nodding. Johnny's mood is soon lightened as he asks BJ if he thinks that they got a car fast enough to win tonight. Bonner replies with a simple yes. Nobody, however, has a challenge for Jeff Gordon, who, similar to Martinsville, dominates yet again. Robbie had taken that car back to the shop and made minor adjustments to make it prepared for Richmond, and it worked. Jeff dominates and claims his third win of the season, and 55th of his career. He passes Lee Petty and Rusty Wallace all time in wins, and he expands his points lead. Whilst the Winston Cup Series sees an off week, racing is still plentiful across the East Coast. The Busch Series is in Loudon, New Hampshire, running a May Classic with other lower touring divisions. And in Darlington, the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series hits the egg-shaped superspeedway for a test of will. At the track, taking in the sights and sounds, is Richard Childress, owner of a couple of trucks. He's accompanied by Dale Earnhardt as they walk down the pit lane alongside the starting field. One of Childress's trucks sits on the front row, starting second. As they approach the sixth truck, both see a nervous young man standing next to it, with his back turned to them. Rich can tell that he doesn't know that they are there, and he elevates his voice a little while talking to Dale to get his notice. He tells Earnhardt that this is the young driver he's been telling him about. The young man turns around to see the two titans of the sport, the Intimidator outreaching for a handshake. He quickly reciprocates as Dale grabs firmly. He asks that he must be Skylar Dixon, the young hotshot that led over half the Daytona truck race before blowing up. Skylar nods nervously as Dale and Richard begin shooting the breeze in front of him. Skylar just watches, and eventually Dale turns back to Skylar and asks him where he's from. Dixon, caught off guard, doesn't say anything. And then Dale glances up at the truck, seeing a crimson cross next to Dixon's name. A little bit lower on the B pillar, he also sees a logo of an elephant barging through the center of an A. Dale cracks a small smile and pats Skylar on the shoulder. He tells him that he never liked Auburn either. As they go green in Darlington, it's checkered for Kevin Harvick, who wins over Mike Skinner. Keller is third, Purvis fourth, and Taylor Fry gets a top 5. Have a nice recovery run from Richmond. Other notables include Biffle in 8th, Delgado 9th, Wortley 14th, LaJoie 19th, and Bergwald 21st. Back in South Carolina, Travis Kvapil grabs his first career truck win over Jack Sprague and Ted Musgrave. Joe Ruttman getting 4th. Dixon, who led early on, had a tire cut down running top 5, sending him to his 16th place finish. The night of NASCAR's version of an all-star race. An event where 21 of NASCAR's stars race for an incredible monetary goal. Before the Winston can start, the Open must be run, where the remainder of the drivers not yet qualified can attempt to try and make the Winston by winning them. Dave Blaney sits on the pole with Ricky Craven to his outside. Jason Leffler in 3rd is alongside Ricky Rudd in 4th. And 5th is Bobby Hamilton. 6th, Ken Schrader. Ricky Rudd is leading late. He is pushing, trying to get away from rookie Jason Leffler, who stalks him. Leffler has been faster the last few laps, and just needs a nose to get past. He has got it. And now, with 6 to go, all he has to do is hit his marks, and he can become one of the coveted drivers in the Winston.
Half a lap for Jason Leffler to cap off what has been a standout performance tonight here in the Open. Ricky Rudd up his bumper.
he got him
through
loose.
3 and 4.
He got him up the hill.
He's up the hill. Leffler's up the hill. Here comes Rudd, the Texaco machine for Robert Yates, trying to put himself into the Winston. He's just going to do that. Leffler makes a mistake. Rudd capitalizes. He's going to be in the main show tonight.
The cars roll down pit lane, and out comes Leffler from his 01 Dodge. Crew Chief Andy Graves walks over asking Leffler what happened, but Jason just leaned up against his car, looks at the ground. Graves walks away, and then another person approaches. "Pick your damn head up," says Sterling Marlin. He hands Jason a towel. Sterling tells Jason that he's got to move on from this. He can't get out of the car and just mope around. Leffler wipes sweat and tears from his face, and then looks up, and Sterling is gone. After the cleanup from the Open, it's time for another 16-lap shootout, known as the Noble Sprint. Johnny Benson is on the pole for this one, as they pulled an interesting strategy to just ride in the Open, and then try and go for the win in this race. The strategy works off, as he dominates the 16-lap shootout, and amasses a 5-second lead over second-place Casey Atwood. Leffler starts in the back for this race, and couldn't get close to the lead by the finish. With that, the Winston is ready to go, with Benson claiming the last spot. Sterling Marlin sits on the pole, as Tony Stewart is second, Jeff Burton in third. Under a clear-skied night, the race goes green.
It's a beautiful night to race for $1 million. 70 laps here for the Winston. Jeff Garcia waving the green flag. We're green in Charlotte.
The first 30-lap segment goes routine. Stewart is able to win over Burton. Marlin fades to third. For the second segment, the 30 laps run clean again. Stewart winning it. Marlin moves to second up, and Jeff Gordon gets the third. And now, the final 10-lap run. The race goes green through it as well. And streaking into turn 1, Gordon powers low to second on the first lap. By the entrance of turn 1 on the next lap, Gordon flies low and is gone. He wins the Winston, as not a single accident occurs all night. Clean and green through all 3 stages. Marlin gets second, as Dale Jarrett claims third. Stewart fades to 6th. With 11 races down and Gordon winning the last points race and the Winston, he controls momentum heading into the 600. He and his 90-point lead are now favorites over the Walsh brothers, who sit behind him roughly 100 back. Taylor Fry and Nick Bergwald sit quietly in a clean office room, waiting the arrival of their boss. The door creaks open slowly, and solid footsteps follow the captain. He walks to the desk and sits in front of his young drivers. He leans onto the table and looks intently at the 2 drivers. He greets the boys, with the 2 saying, "Hello, Mr. Penske," in response. After some casual ice-breaking conversation, Roger gets to the point. He says the 12 car driven by Jeremy Mayfield will be opening up at the end of 2001. He is being let go. He then tells the boys that if it's not apparent already, they are the top 2 candidates for the ride. He wanted to tell them because obviously there's only one seat, and he wants to nip any controversy that could occur for media play immediately, and make sure that there is a friendly competition between the drivers for the seat. He ensures that even after one of the 2 is selected, he has a plan for the other, and then he appreciates both kids still. Nick and Taylor look at one another. For the first time, they are no longer allies. They've worked all this way to get to the Cup Series, and now they are adversaries. The biggest challenge the 2 have ever faced. A challenge that will take their once thought unbreakable friendship and see it be driven to the edge.